Ranking new movies released in June from worst to best. I'm not gonna lie, it was not a great month for new movie releases. Most of these are incredibly mediocre, but admittedly, I only really watch like the biggest blockbusters that released every week, and I kind of missed out on a lot more of the smaller releases. I don't know why, I've just been in like a film watching slump lately. In dead last place at number 5, I have Scary Movie 6. I do think there's a decent amount of jokes that land in this movie. There are some really funny moments in this movie. They parody Sinners like 3 different times, and I found all of those to be hilarious, and it is just nice to see the original crew back together, but there are ultimately more misses than hits for jokes in this movie. Some of the things like the long legs joke, the substance, they just kind of fell completely flat for me for the most part. And despite this movie advertising itself as being so edgy and crossing every line, a lot of the humor is pretty tame. Like I said, there is a decent amount of laughs, but nothing like groundbreaking. In 4th place is unfortunately Supergirl. Now again, this is just another mediocre movie this month. I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. I really wanted to love this movie though, because it's based on the Amazing Woman of Tomorrow comic, but this ultimately just feels like a very stripped down, dull, and simplified version of that story that honestly kind of misses the entire point of the comic, which I understand you're gonna make changes in an adaptation no matter what, but this, they were straight up point blank period being like, yeah, we're adapting the Woman of Tomorrow comic, and it's just so much worse. I did love Millie Alcock as this character. I do think she's held back by the script a lot of times in the movie, but some of the really more emotional moments she does absolutely nail. I loved a lot of the flashback scenes. I wish more of the movie was honestly about her origin. I think that would have been the better film to tell here. I also did really like Jason Momoa as Lobo. I know a lot of people are complaining that he just feels like tacked onto this movie. He doesn't really fit in with the main storyline, which is true, but I don't really care. Every time he was on screen, he was an absolute blast. It just ultimately plays it so safe and generic that it ultimately is just a very forgettable movie. I feel like I've seen 20 other superhero movies that feel the exact same as this, which again is just such a shame. So it's not even like it's a horrible film on its own. It's just so disappointing for what it could have been. Now, before the top 3, if you're a fan of the channel, I'd really appreciate it if you considered becoming a member. If you go to my channel, you can join there for a few dollars a month. Do it on a computer or browser. It'll be cheaper than on your iPhone. I'm posting spoiler and more in-depth versions of my movie reviews, like Supergirl and Toy Story 5 are already up over there, and some videos will be available early for members like this one, but that's only extra content, so if you don't feel like joining, no worries. The content's gonna stay the exact same on the free feed here. At number 3 is a very similar movie. I have Masters of the Universe. I do think this is ultimately a more fun time. I still land on like a 6 out of 10 for this movie though, but I think it's slightly more entertaining than Supergirl. I wasn't really familiar with the Masters of the Universe property or these characters, but I think this was a fun enough introduction to these characters and the world of Eternia. Surprisingly, Jared Leto as Skeletor I thought was one of, if not the best part of the movie. It's actually a really good and funny performance from him. This movie's definitely going for that like Thor Ragnarok and Love and Thunder style of humor where we don't take anything seriously, which I do think holds it back a little bit. It works better because this movie is inherently more goofy than those films, but I don't think any of the humor is really like laugh out loud worthy. It's just like mildly entertaining. If it was funnier and the jokes landed better, it would have easily be like a 7 or 8 out of 10 though. Number 2 is Disclosure Day, another movie I have problems with, but I think this is like a solid 7 out of 10. And my biggest problems come with the ending of this movie. I don't think it's anywhere near as profound or emotional as it should be. I do think a lot of this movie really works, especially like the first hour. That's just basically a giant chase scene where you're following Emily Blunt and Josh O'Connor's character kind of on the run from the government as they get pulled into this whole like alien conspiracy and truth that the government's hiding. Spielberg still has the sauce when it comes to the camera movement and shots he has in this movie. There are some really cool visuals, but also some moments that do look really bad, like some wonky CGI. But I do think Emily Blunt gives one of the best performances of the year in this movie, which really lifts it up in my rankings. But number 1 has to be Toy Story 5. So refreshing to make Jessie the main character of this one. I think they weave in the tech versus toy storyline so perfectly. Some super emotional moments. It's funny, not as hilarious as previous Toy Story films, but still really great overall. If you want to hear my full thoughts on the movie, click the video above my head right now, and thank you for watching.